anything then.
All right, I think we are streaming. A link over here.
So Roger, we do have a quorum.
Definitely with Jamie joining, and he's just popped on here. So
Yes, we have a quorum.
Okay. So who all do we have on? I can see Roger, I see Mayor Everson, Paul, other board members.
I have marked, I have Alex Jensen, Jason Roberts, Matt Dahl, Jamie Davidson, Paul Isaac, Brant Hansen, Mayor Acerson, Brenda Moore, and then with staff, I have Laurie, Roger, Josh, myself, Kim, and Aaron Lynch just came on.
Okay, very good. Well, good
So
morning, everyone.
We're just missing someone from Payson.
Okay. Well, hopefully they'll join. Well, good morning. Appreciate you taking the opportunity to visit this morning. Got some important items to discuss. So we have a set of minutes from October 19th, 2020. We'd be happy to entertain a motion on those minutes or consider additions or deletions.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Jason. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Paul. Thank you, Paul. Let's just do a voice vote. All in favor of approving the minutes as proposed, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Okay, thank you. Appears to be unanimous. Next item is a public hearing that needs to be held to allow public input regarding the proposed issuance of not more than $57 million in tax exempt telecom bonds. This is an item that we talked about at our last meeting, and Laura Lewis and Brad came. Sorry about that. Brad came and made a presentation regarding that. So, Josh, you can guide me here. Can we just go right in, accept motion, just to go right into a public hearing on this, or Roger, do you have anything to present ahead of that? Or Lori?
to sum it up, the
Okay.
big, final round to finish the build out of the network. It's an exciting time. We're already doing this. So if you had kind of tracked our financials leading up to this, currently we're using unrestricted cash to fund construction. Normally that would be coming from the bond, but that balance was getting a little bit large, which is a good problem to have. So we've been able to proceed ahead of schedule and get this thing built out. So we're not looking at several years of build out with this bond. It's probably going to be a year and a half at most, I would think, before we really are done. And that's based on the schedule we have posted publicly. We're going to reserve maybe 2 years of time because sometimes we run into some railroad crossings and permitting issues, but from a construction capacity perspective, we're ahead of schedule quite a bit. And as we get closer, we will be pulling in the dates. I know a lot of residents in your cities look at our publicly posted schedule for when things are going to be finished. But because of the timing of that and this bond and everything, we've been able to kind of move things up a little bit. So we'll adjust the public schedules after we finalize and close on this bond. But that's all good news. So anyways, that's what this is. Any questions about it?
Any questions from board members? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Roger. So I'll accept a motion to go into a public hearing.
So moved. I'll make a motion, Mayor Acerson, to open a public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Acerson. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, a second from Matt. Thank you, Matt. Let's do a roll call vote. Try to get everybody. Mayor Acerson.
Aye.
Brenda.
Aye.
Jason Roberts.
Aye.
Paul Isaac.
Aye.
Brant.
Aye. Matt Dawes and I.
Matt, I'm sorry, Matt. I was looking right at you too.
No problem.
And And Leighton is an aye. Did I miss anybody?
Forums and I.
Oh, sorry, Jamie. I'll wake up here. Apologize. Anybody else? Okay, it appears to be unanimous. Thank you. So we're now in a public hearing. Is there anyone that has posted any comments?
We've not had any public comments posted.
I didn't receive anything.
Room here, and room here. So
There's nobody there at the office, obviously.
it's me. Well, and people in their offices, but in our boardroom, nobody came.
No public who showed up. Okay. Is there anything additional that needs to be presented? I noticed we have Laura on the line. Anything, Laura, you'd like to add?
No, we're ready to chug along. We've got a meeting scheduled with the rating agency, and we're just moving right along to close in February, early February.
Okay, very good. Do we need to take, Josh, any action? There's no resolution to approve. I think we did that previously. So this is just the opening and closing of the public hearing and taking the comment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we can just entertain a motion to close the public hearing with a note that there was no public comment received either electronically or in person at the Utopia offices.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So I'll be happy to entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved. This is Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. Is there a second?
Second, Brent.
Brand, okay, thank you. Let's do a roll call vote on that again. Jamie,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Brenda,
Yes.
Mayor Acherson,
Yes.
see who else I've missed here.
Matt Dahl's a yes.
Matt, Jason Roberts,
Yes.
Brant's a yes.
Brant's a yes, thank you. And then Layton's an aye as well. Did I miss anybody?
No.
Okay,
Jamie, you noticed he let out with you this time, so he didn't miss you.
that's right.
The last shall be first, and the first shall be
Shall be
last.
last.
Right?
There you go. Well, thank you. That's really a milestone. As I heard Paul talking about, Paul Isaac, when I first joined the call about it's kind of the wrapping up, so to speak, of the original dream of all of us that are sitting here today. Most of us, some of us weren't here, but our communities were, to realize the complete build out of each of the member cities, the original member cities. And I think, unless I misunderstand, this is the realization of that. So congratulations to all of you. It wasn't easy, was it? Kind of like Hamburger Hill sometimes, but
Now everybody thinks they can do it.
yes, right. Well, they just contract with us and it's easy. What was so hard about this? But anyway, thanks to all of you and thanks to the great staff. This is a significant thing, and certainly Laura and Brad and the finance team's been a significant part of that as well. So great day. The next item is item 4, the resolution to consider approval of amending the fiscal year 2021 budget. Laurie, give a presentation on that.
I do. We do have a public hearing regarding this, but I think it would be a good idea for me to go over well, either way you want to do it. Do we want to present the budget amendments in the public hearing?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and open the public hearing, and then we'll have you make a staff presentation regarding that, and then if there's anybody that's joins, they can respond to what you've said.
Okay.
And then we'll also obviously give the board members an opportunity to ask questions as part of that as well.
I make a motion to go into a public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Acherson. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, let's do a roll call. Again, Mayor Acherson.
Aye.
Thank you. Paul,
Yes.
Brenda,
Yes.
Brant,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Jason Roberts,
Yes.
and Leighton is an aye. Did I miss anybody?
No,
Okay. Okay, very good. So we're now in a public hearing, and Laurie, go ahead with your presentation, please.
Okay. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the UIA fiscal year 2021 budget. On the left side, you have the budget for 2021. We only have 2 budget amendments to propose, and both of those are regarding the bonds. For the Clearfield bonds that were issued in August, the proceeds from debt issuance was 13.9 million. 12.7 million of that goes into network expansion. And then the other budget entries are for bond issuance costs, contribution to CAPI, debt service reserve funds. But the important thing here is the network expansion of $12.7 million. The second proposed amendment would be for the UI 2021 bonds that we plan to issue in February. The anticipated proceeds from the debt issuance, 54,150,000. The contribution to the bond construction funds, 34 million. Network expansion, 12 million. This is, the 12 million is essentially going to be reimbursed to UIA for the money that we are currently spending on the build out. There is a reimbursement agreement in the bond that funds we are spending right now are eligible for reimbursement from this 2021 series. This originally in the 21 budget, we budgeted $10 million from our fund balance for network expansion with the intention that that money would be reimbursed out of this series. So actually, reducing expenditures by 10 million, and the other operating costs, we'll look at the UIA financials for 2021 later, but everything is in line and there is no need for additional budget amendments to the 21 budget. Any questions?
Thank you, Laurie. Any questions of Laurie from the board?
Hey, Laurie, this is Jason. I was just wondering that 7.4 million for CAPI, what time period is that for?
That is for 2 years. Right now we are planning on 25-year term. That would be 2 years of CAPI and then 23 years of debt service.
So what's the interest rate we're planning on getting, we're anticipating with that number?
Jason, I'm frantically trying to pull those numbers up. The good news is whatever we last ran on November 19th, I was just looking up, rates have gone down roughly 2 basis points since then, but if you'll give me a minute, I just had it pulled up before the last meeting and then I closed it. So give me a minute and I'll let you know.
Laura, if I can help, I have the model that Nathan ran and sent over. Is that
okay? Yep, that's it. So have at it. You've got that there.
Cost of 3.05.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, other questions? Okay, very good. Thank you, Laurie. Are there any public comments that are to be made, either by someone that has joined electronically or is joined in person at the Utopia offices? Krista, can you just confirm that there hasn't been any electronic?
I have not received any comments for this.
Okay, and Roger, can you confirm there's nobody there at the office? Roger?
Sorry, I was muted. I was
Okay.
just, yeah, nobody's here.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you. We'll go ahead and entertain a motion to close the public hearing and to adopt Resolution 20-1 10, which amends the fiscal year 2021 budget, as Lori has outlined.
So moved. This is Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Yeah, second from Jason. Let's do a roll call vote. So Jamie,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Brant,
Aye.
Mayor Acerson,
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Did I get you, Jamie?
Yes. Aye.
Okay, and Leighton is an aye. Jason Roberts.
I'm an aye.
Did I miss anybody?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Next item is a brief discussion regarding the board meeting schedule for 2021. Roger, do you have anything to present on that?
I think I do. Let's see. I thought it was in the packet. Did we
All
have?
right, can I ask a clarifying question really quick?
Sure. you bet.
I know you listed all of those. I might have not listened to the motion very well. You listed closing the public hearing and then voting on the amendment, and then you call the roll call. Did we just vote on closing the public hearing, or did we vote on both things? In which case I'm aye in both of those, but I might have misunderstood what we were doing specifically.
Okay, yeah, my intention was to have the vote on both of those to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution.
Got it. Sorry. All right. I'm still aye on both of those. Look, can we just forget I even asked that question?
No.
I was going to ask the same thing, so thank you.
Okay, I apologize. I should have clarified that. So thank you, Matt. Good catch. Any concern with that, Josh?
No.
Okay. That's how we typically kind of do it in Layton, but we're a bunch of rednecks too, so,
I think it's called efficiency.
well, I wouldn't get carried away. Okay, very good. Raj, you have proposed meeting dates?
Yeah, so this is within the packet. This is the schedule of proposed meetings. We time them the same dates with the Utopia board meetings as well. These are the proposed dates. Usually we're looking at the second Monday, unless there's some sort of conflict. I think we conflict with Columbus Day or something. I don't know. What's in October, Krista? Do you remember?
Columbus Day.
Yeah, Columbus Day.
Okay, which holiday that was? Okay,
So we do it the Monday after.
so the third Monday in October, but otherwise it's the second. Any concerns with that schedule? Or, I mean, we're happy to change. Sometimes things come up and we may need to move them, and then we would notice that. Sometimes we may need, an additional meeting, just a special meeting, but is just from a normal schedule perspective, this is what we have proposed. And it's kind of the way we've been doing things.
Okay, very good. Any concerns with that? Again, recognizing it may adjust a bit here or there.
Yeah, I don't know how our minutes want to record that. Has it officially changed from Columbus Day to some other naming of that date, or is it still listed as Columbus Day?
I actually don't think I list anything in the minutes as to why we don't do that.
Okay,
We just
good.
put that it's an exception.
I think we'll be safe if you do that. Someone will read it and beat us up or something.
Yeah, good point, Mayor.
Or becomes named. Okay.
I just hope one of these meetings we can actually all be in the same room again.
Yes. Okay, well, very good. Sounds like there's no concerns, Roger. So thank you for that presentation. We'll just proceed as proposed there with, and then adjust as needed. Next item 6, is some training from Josh, our general counsel, regarding the Open and Public Meetings Act.
Thanks, Alex. I have a presentation that I'm going to try to get going here. That coming through?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Well, this is just kind of our opportunity. The legislature has required that we have an annual training to just keep up to speed on things that are happening with the Open Meetings Act. Looking over the prior year's legislative sessions, there actually has been a bit of action with the Open Public Meetings Act, some changes that have come into play, but none of those changes really directly affect Utopia. It's pretty much still just business as usual for us. Changes that have come into play largely have to do with just the increased number of electronic meetings that are happening across the state and kind of facilitating that procedurally, allowing cities and other public entities to hold public meetings without identifying an anchor location for the meeting. At Utopia, we've been fortunate that as essential services, we've been able to continue to operate, and we've been able to continue to hold meetings in basically a consistent fashion with what we did before things happened, albeit more participation electronically. But nevertheless, even though those changes don't affect us directly, the legislature has asked that we still have this training. I always like to start out when thinking about the Open Meetings Act with the legislative intent, which we get in 52-4102. And it boils down to the idea that the legislature wants the business of public agencies to have actions taken openly and deliberations to be taken openly. So when there are questions that come up, I think it's always a good idea to err on the side of trying to keep that information publicly available so that citizens can be aware of what's happening in agencies. As far as looking at the specific requirements of the act requires that meetings be held openly and does provide us with the definition of a meeting, which you can see there on the slide. It's the convening of a public body or a specified body with a quorum present, including a workshop or an executive session, whether in person or by means of electronic communications, for the purpose of discussing, receiving comments from the public about, or acting upon a matter of which the public body or specified body has jurisdiction or advisory power. So when we're dealing with a meeting, the default position is always that that meeting is going to be open unless that meeting has a portion or the meeting in its entirety, as may be the case in some circumstances, would qualify for being closed under the provisions that are identified in the statute there for a closed meeting. In order to hold a closed meeting, you need to have a quorum present. In most circumstances, you need to have a 2/3 vote to close the meeting. There are a handful of cases where just a majority vote is permitted, but the safer assumption is to expect that you would need a 2/3 vote for that to happen. And then also there's a list there that I've provided of kind of the common circumstances that justify a closed session. Discussions of character, strategy sessions for litigation or purchase of property, dealing with security circumstances or investigative proceedings. All things that we're familiar with, pretty straightforward. The thing that I like to drive home most of all when I'm talking about open meetings, because it's the thing that I think I've seen the most problems with in my practice over the last several years, is the tendency that people have to participate in kind of the side meeting that's happening while the actual meeting is happening. The Open Meetings Act is pretty clear in stating, as you can see, that electronic communications between members of a public body are permitted when the meeting is not happening. And the statute doesn't directly come out and say that while the meeting is happening, those electronic communications are prohibited. But I think the safest reading of the statute would be that it is not within the legislature's intent to have those communications taking place. So when we're in the meeting, it's best to have anything that's being said openly. I'm sure we've all been in the meetings where there's the text message exchanges happening and you can kind of tell that there's that second meeting. That's, I think, not best practices, and I think it's also risky practices to have that happen. Calling back to the legislative intent, we want those deliberations to be happening in open. And so I'd encourage that to always be the case with our meetings here and in the meetings that you're holding in other contexts as well. The reasons for this, I'm sure we're all familiar with. The primary reason that we don't want to have violations of the Open Meetings Act is that it puts actions taken in that meeting into question. Obviously at Utopia and in all of our public meetings, we're conducting important business, and we want that business to stand up to criticism. We want that business to be open to the people who it affects. And we don't want people to come in and say that there were problems with the way that that business was conducted. And so in order to avoid those challenges, we want to comply with the statute as best we can. And in some circumstances, there are also criminal penalties that can apply. The circumstances that those criminal penalties are an option is pretty limited, admittedly, but it's still something that we want to stay away from. And so, again, it's always best idea to comply with the statute in every way that we can. Obviously, with the training and the things that I've talked about here today, that's focusing on just the conduct of the meetings. The Open Meetings Act also has kind of what I view as two additional prongs that it focuses on. One is the actions that take place before the meeting, focusing on notice and proper timeframes and information that needs to be available. And then the second is the things that happen after the meeting with the minutes, publication of the minutes and how we make that available to people after the fact. And I just want to take a quick second and give huge credit to Krista for the work that she does on both of those prongs of compliance with the Open Meetings Act. She does a great job, and it's a lot of work, and very grateful to her for the efforts that she puts into that and the attention that she puts into compliance with the Act as she's carrying out those duties. Are there any questions about open meeting stuff? Anything that I can answer for you? If not, that's everything that I have, Alex.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Josh. Good presentation. Let's move on. The next item is a financial update regarding UIA, and Laurie's going to present that.
Yes, I want to start out by mentioning that Kelly Somerville, Utopia's billing supervisor, resigned at the end of November. December 4th was her last day. She's been with Utopia for 11 years. She got married a couple of years ago, and she has a new baby, and her son Philip, I think, is maybe 11 or 12. She just felt like it was time to move on. We do have a contract in place with Kelly. She left on very good terms. She is more than willing to help us in the transition. The finance staff has really stepped up to try to fill her shoes. She's going to be missed. I miss her already. But she will make sure that we don't let things fall through the cracks in the transition. And also, speaking with the transition, I realize this is a UIA board meeting, but I want to just mention that with her leaving and with the continuing growth between UIA and Utopia, it's become very clear that we need more focus on our accounting processes and systems, and also on our financial reporting. Our current controller, Jess Rudd, is assuming the role of treasurer, and we are currently advertising and interviewing for a controller with a lot of governmental experience and or knowledge of our software, which is Dynamics GP. We have some really good candidates, and I think we'll try to fill in for Kelly. The controller originally will take over a lot of her duties and find a home for them, either someone else on the finance staff or figure out a way to better automate some of those systems. The audit is still underway. It's going smoothly. I know we're slow. I apologize. They have been very thorough this year, which I always appreciate. We expect a clean opinion, no problems there. The report will be finished by December 31. There are no changes from the estimated revenues and expenditures that I presented in October, probably $5 million in revenue before depreciation. That's very close to what was budgeted for fiscal year 2020. So do you have any questions before I jump into the financial report for the current state of affairs? I might mention, we did put a packet together for Kelly with comments from people that she has worked with at the company and on the board. We are still collecting some of those. So if you want to just text us some comments for Kelly, we'll get those printed out and make sure that she gets all of those. Okay. Okay, this is the year-to-date for Utah Infrastructure Agency. You have the budget for 2021 in the first column. The year-to-date figures for the period ending November 30th, 2020 in the second column. With 5 months having been completed, we are at we're 42% of the way through the fiscal year. Revenues, we're doing great. Our total revenue is 40%. We're ahead of what we budgeted for installation fees. And I have no doubt that we'll get to the full budget for access fees. We did, especially with Utah Infrastructure Agency, we are increasing our monthly recurring revenue by about $35,000 per month. So it's not surprising that we are not at 42% with the rate of growth that we have in revenues. So 40% of budget for total revenue. Expenditures are coming in where we anticipated them to. We are at 41% of the total budget for expenditures. 64% of debt service. That's because a lot of the principal on the notes come due in October. So we are doing fine on debt service. Contributions from CAPI and debt service reserve funds. All this means is that we pulled quite a bit of money out of CAPI to make the debt service payments as scheduled. Layton is just barely starting to make their principal and interest payments. The debt service period is over for them. So most of this debt service has been expended. Sorry, most of the CAPI has been expended. We're doing great on network expansion. We're about 57% of what was budgeted. Overall, I don't see any issues with any of the line items, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Lori, this is,
Alex.
I'm sure this is Alex. You'd mentioned, if I understood correctly, that the month-over-month increase for just the UIA revenue was $35,000 a month.
Yeah, I have another graph that I want to show you. If we jump to the graphs, this is the recurring revenue for Utopia and UIA. I know you're all familiar with this, but the Utopia revenue is at about $700,000 per month. The recurring UIA revenue is at about $1.75 million per month. Total recurring revenue, both entities combined, is closing in on $2.5 million. The second graph is combined UIA and Utopia recurring revenue increase. This is the 12-month moving average of the increase month to month in the revenue. So back, and this is just the trend line. So back here in at the end of 2017, we were seeing increase in recurring revenue month over month of about 15,000. That jumped to about 25,000 at the end of the 2019 fiscal year, and we are now above 35,000. There's a lot of little dips along the way. This is not a reason to be concerned. We have individuals who still purchase the full UIA connection up front, the $3,000. We are including those in recurring revenue because that is a situation that will continue to occur as we go into new cities. We don't offer the financed queue anymore. So if people are going to buy the queue outright, they have to pay the full it's 2750 upfront. So month over month, combined UIA Utopia, we are over 35,000 per month and on the way to 40,000. I'm sorry, Alex, I don't right now have that broken down for Utopia and UIA. I can assure you that most of that increases in UIA.
So
That's fine.
Real quick on it. So the subscriber growth and the contracted revenue and all that stuff is actually growing very, very stable. But it just kind of, to Laurie's point, you'll see these kind of jumps up and down, just what comes in that month because of one-time payments and credits or disconnects and new signups. As we're looking at what's happening day to day here, it's actually really, really good. We got a lot of good business in the queue, and the residential signups are still super strong. So it's just the charts. Sometimes you see that, I panic. I'm like, why did the line go down? That's concerning. But as we're looking at what's going on, there's no bad thing there. That the line's still going up. It's just the 1 month, month over month number that looks like it's gone down. But the actual system is very good.
Yeah, no reason to be concerned with this. I believe what did happen in this month, our business revenue is also included in here, and I believe there was a credit for something that occurred back in here. Our business revenue is continuing to increase at a great rate. So that's the recurring month over month revenue. And then this is the UIA revenue versus bond obligation. I have to confess up front, the graph that I sent out last night has an error in it. So this is corrected, and I will send you all the corrected version in case you want to share this with your city councils. Again, this is the UIA revenue at 1.75 million. This first little diamond right here is what the monthly debt service will be when the Series 2021 debt is issued. This second line is the Clearfield debt service. The lines that are dotted are those that we are still paying Cap I out of. So this is when we added Clearfield. I probably should start at the bottom at this point. This is the Series 2017 debt. The gray line is the Series 2018 UIA debt. This green line is the latent UIA debt. We are out of the Cap I period, so we now have that debt service. The blue line is the addition of Morgan City debt. The orange line is Payson. The purple line, West Point. This jump here is the issuance of the UIA Series 2019 bonds. This jump here is the addition of the Clearfield debt. And then when we issue the Series 21, our monthly debt service will be right here. And I do think that it's interesting to take a look at the gap between our debt service and our revenues. It's really pretty consistent if you draw a diagonal line down the increases in the debt service. There's always a pretty healthy, looks like $500,000 or $500,000 gap between debt service and revenues.
That's the most beautiful picture I've ever seen.
Isn't that pretty?
It's gorgeous. It's a work of art.
We'll make sure we include that in our ratings presentation.
Yeah.
And I might say with the footprints that have opened, we expect a really strong December. So when we do the presentation, I think that will have been, it'll be on.
It's a picture that is worth 1,000 words and $40 or $50 million.
Yes.
Yeah, and in the early phases, we kind of thought of doing like 3 separate transactions, but because the revenue growth's been so strong, it's put us, we can go in and show this and say, hey, we've got really, really good coverage on a larger bond and still get a good enough bond rating. So this could be, that debt, how much debt we take and how quickly and how we build out the network, we kind of have to gauge that conservatively enough that we can still finance that, but things have gone really well, and we're just like, well, if we've got the capacity to do both build it and finance it, let's get this thing done a little quicker. And the quicker it gets built out, you know, that revenue line, there's no reason to think that revenue line doesn't continue. It's not going to go infinite because we have a limited number of addresses to get customers, but it'll still continue to grow pretty aggressively. And that's when we really put ourselves into a strong position to pay off debts and alleviate, you know, the bond payments that are being made by cities. Obviously, we've got to figure out how that works between UIA and Utopia. But yeah, even though that debt line, if you're to draw a line on the debt, yeah, the debt obligations have grown aggressively, but this is the last big one. So if this now kind of comes into these, just the additional city projects, and we continue to have strong revenue growth, we'll be in a really good position financially, and we already are, but even more so.
I have a question. I know I'm not a board member, so Alex, is it okay if I pose a question? I think I lip read
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You're an honorary board member for life,
Okay.
whether you like it or not.
All right. Well, I am glad to be one of those. So my question, Roger and Laurie, is as you see this continued growth, you know, my sense is you won't see a lot of let up in the demand. Is there anything that concerns you from a staffing, you know, availability of resources to house that staff, anything from the expense side? And again, I'm obviously asking this in a lead up to, is there anything I need to be aware of or we need to be aware of relative to the discussion we'll be having with the rating agency here in less than a month?
From my perspective, you know, this is all incremental that we already have, and we continue to get an improved economy of scale. So as we add customers, obviously we have to add technicians. There's certain roles at the company that have to grow relative to the number of customers. There's also a burden on us relative to the rate of new growth in construction, right? So if we just stopped construction, you know, there's a lot of the company that we don't need the resource from as much. I don't think we ever really stop on the construction side, as we have the opportunity to benefit from additional city partnerships. But I think we've got great capacity there. I think we've got good capacity in our other roles. So yeah, yes, we expect some small incremental, but not anything big. And you know, the cost per customer is going down, you know, from an operating perspective as we continue to grow. So I think we're good. We're not about to trigger any sort of major, you know, hey, we need to go buy another building. You know, we did buy a building a while back, as you're aware, that's South Salt Lake building. And so we do have space there. We've located our utility locators out of that building, our field technicians, and we're increasing the usage of that facility. So we're in pretty good shape. I don't see any major, you know, oh crud, here's some big thing that we have to, that's going to cost us a lot of money. It'll just be some incremental growth of staff relative to the number of customers. Could just be a few positions here and there.
Great. And then what about the cost of replacement electronics? With COVID, are they still available? Is the cost going up because of supply demand issues? I mean, if it's COVID related, it may be, you know, temporary, but just what are you seeing there?
So the cost of electronics has stayed pretty flat. We do have a small increase in the cost of materials. So, you know, every year the materials and construction contractors have an opportunity to adjust pricing, and then, you know, we evaluate that through our, you know, we do RFPs every so often. Sometimes we just reissue, and sometimes it's incremental where we're not seeing better pricing from the alternatives. And so we got a little bit of an increase, but we're actually pretty happy. Generally, we're still getting much better pricing than you would if you just went out to market as a new operation. You know, we have pretty good size and scale of things. So yeah, costs go up over time, but we're hoping that the overall cost stays flat, in the sense that as we continue to improve our economy of scale and the cost of services goes up a little bit, that we end up saying, hey, this is great, we don't actually need to raise our rates. You know, that's basically what you're seeing from every other provider out there, is they're saying, you know, we're gonna have to add another 5% or 10% as the cost of people and the cost of materials and all these things increase over time. There is a potential someday that Utopia comes in and says, hey, we need to do a rate increase. I think we're actually better positioned to just keep things stable, though. Like I said, as we continue to improve our economy of scale, I don't foresee needing to do that anytime in the near future. And in some cases, we've looked at it and said, you know, may we need to lower prices at some point. We haven't felt the need to, but we would have the ability to potentially. Right now, the priority would be to pay off debts, though. So if we have upside.
So something else that would be helpful to make sure we include in the rating presentation, and I'll try to communicate this with Nathan as well, is maybe an updated slide relative to what you know, it costs to be on your network compared to, you know, the competition. If we can get something like that that's updated, that would be helpful. And now I've taken enough of your board time, so thank you.
Competition has been really good for us, and what I mean by that is by not being competitive. So the competition has increased their prices and announced that they're going to put in bandwidth caps, and so that's continued to drive up demand for fiber, rather than seeing them be, you know, change what they're doing based on responding to us. So it's been good. But yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
update that information.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Laurie, we were on your slides in the finance update. Do you have anything else?
I do not.
Hey, thank you, Laurie and Laura. Next item is an update regarding the network. Roger.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly show some of the updates. We send out a subscriber report. I've not sent it out this month, so I apologize. A little bit behind schedule. It's been very busy, but I do want to show some highlights of where we're at. And so this shows our residential take rates in the different cities. This is what gets charted and other things, but I just want to show how, you know, these recent months, this would be the most recent report data we have here. We continue to see an uptick in take rate in every city except for where we're building, you know, so we go add a bunch of new areas. Sometimes that ticks down a little bit until it's had time. The only exception, I guess we could say is, you know, the super high take rate we have here in Linden did just notch down a tad, but they've had some subdivisions come in. So as again, the denominator increases as new parcels are created in the city, and yet those may not have homes on them yet. That's what we had happen in Linden. We didn't actually decrease in number of customers. So even in our highest take rate city, we continue to grow, continue to get higher take rate. And as we talk, you know, about these projects and say, well, what is a successful project? You know, usually we like to be somewhere at about a 35% take rate to say, you know, hey, that's where we would need to be for a project to break even, and then maybe even have some money coming off of that project. And you'll see that all of the cities that we've built out and have completed, you know, and they've been completed for more than a couple years, are well above that threshold. The ones where we're below that threshold, like Midvale, Murray, Orem, West Point, and West Valley City, are all cities where we have new area, you know, where we've just completed things. So really, it's that we're completely successful from the ability to build networks and get enough customers out of those, except for those that are in process still. So it's pretty exciting to look at that. As we look at the overall progress of things, this address availability represents the construction of the network. We just missed the deadline and released a bunch of stuff in December, so they don't show up on this chart. But we have been building much faster than we have historically in this later part of the curve. And so you'll see in the next report a big bump in the availability. And obviously that helps us from a sales perspective, because you've got thousands of people there waiting for services and that would be signing up. But we've released several thousand addresses, I think a couple thousand, maybe 2,500 or so since the beginning of this month, with several footprints about ready to be released. So that'll help us from a availability, but also from a sign up perspective. So anyways, good numbers, you know, the subscribers in every city continues to grow. These, you know, if you look back just a few years, you can see how flat things were from a subscriber basis, and demand has really skyrocketed across the board. That's been very good for us, very good for our cities and communities. More and more people are benefiting from this investment that the cities have made. And we're really happy with things. We're approaching 35,000 subscribers. We'll cross that probably this month. And that's a big number. It took us many years to get to that first 10,000, and we will be adding more than 10,000 just this year. So that's, I don't know, Kim, do you know where we're at for the year right now?
We are at, as of like last Wednesday, 9,800 new residential subscribers for the year.
So that's those are the sales side of things. So we do lose some off of churn, but then you add in the business subscriptions and the overall. So we'll be well ahead of. I think we'll net over 10,000 this year overall, and then just from a sales perspective, it's been very strong. So that's a number well beyond what we had hoped. I think we set a goal of 7,000 or something this year, which would have been the best year ever, and we blew way past that. So obviously we got some help from COVID, but again, that's been a nice thing to legitimize why we're doing this in the first place. So we've always talked about being able to remote work, the benefits of education. Unfortunately, we don't like the circumstances around COVID, but our communities where the fiber network has been completed, that's been an enormous benefit to those communities. And now more than ever, we see other communities coming to us saying, what do we do? We're at a huge disadvantage compared to those areas with fiber. We even have people who move, they say, you used to see it, people would move to get to the better schools, right? Now people are, well, everything's online. I need to move to where I can get the broadband to support my remote working and my education and all this other stuff. This become so much more critical to people is where they decide to live and where they move. So anyways, it's been good, and it's been a good year, and it's been a difficult year. I think it has been for everybody. But we've been scrambling to keep up with this demand. And again, if you look at our staffing and things, we haven't really grown. The areas we've grown have been really utility locating and field technicians mainly. And that's just relative to the size of the network. But the overhead like me and several other people, there's not more of us. We've been very busy, but things have been good. We're having fun while also working hard and enjoying the successes that we're having here at Utopia. That's all I've got.
Roger, are you aware of any potential efforts to make a run at Utopia in any way at the legislature this year? I've heard inklings of maybe some opportunities for positive things for Utopia, but are you aware of anything negative that anybody's kicking around out there, or anybody else on the board?
I think things are really good, and the perception of Utopia is very, very strong. That we've had some legislators say, what do we need to do to make this better for Utopia? And can we remove some of the obstacles like the open access requirement? And from our perspective, we've said, this model works very well for us. So we don't really, it's kind of really the same approach we've had in the past. We don't need anything, but don't do anything against us either, from the legislative perspective. And I think we're going into this next legislative session with a lot of support. And we haven't heard of anybody looking to cause trouble.
The only complaint, Roger, that I can think of is that we're not built out everywhere.
Yeah, it's amazing. We just build new area and suddenly we have lots of more friends and support because we may have connected someone's house, and you don't target legislators or others, that may influence those circles. But just as we grow, more and more people connect and realize the great benefit of it. And it's just an effect of building this thing out. We get more support. I know there's been some of that in Orem, I think, where we've had some people who've been real naysayers and they had a legitimate reason to, because they couldn't get the service, right? And as we make that service available to them, suddenly they say, okay, well, it was a long time coming and it took longer than we'd hoped, and this has been rough, But now that I have it, it's phenomenal, and it's become a critical benefit, a critical service for them to function. And suddenly people who may have been very critical of Utopia, have become very supportive. And I don't know, is that accurate, Jamie? I don't want to speak too much for your city, but we've seen, that's been one.
Well, absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, I think we're very, very happy with where we are from a legislative perspective.
Good. Board members, do you have any questions of Roger regarding the presentation?
Roger, you, if I may, Alex,
You bet.
on occasion, you have provided us with information as to conversations you're having with other municipalities. Does that dialogue continue on, or does there continue to be interest amongst other cities and areas for access to Utopia?
So absolutely, you know, we don't like to advertise them too widely because a lot of attention often brings negative attention.
Yes.
However, you know, are we having discussions with cities? Absolutely. We've had more cities reach out to us interested in this, and really from our perspective, you know, we're saying we're not out there selling it, and we're not, you know, if there's a partnership to be made and it's mutually beneficial, we're interested in that. That's generally been our position. But you know, we can't go do the entire state next year, but we do have capacity to probably do a couple additional city partnerships. And so I would say we have about 4 of decent size, not the largest cities, but I'd call them medium cities that have all expressed interest to partner with Utopia and seem to have unanimous support. And they're in various stages of RFPs. You know, I'll mention a couple of them. Not, you know, again, I don't.
It's not necessary. I was just curious. I was just curious if there continues to be dialogue and that interest continues. Like you said, the positive momentum seems to be gaining rather than a number of years ago, people focusing more on the negative.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, for some of these cities, they're getting left behind, and they acknowledge that, and they didn't see that as a problem so much in the past. But you can imagine, especially like if you're up in Davis County, where we've had so much build out recently, and with these new city partnerships of West Point, and Clearfield, and then the success we've had in Layton, and Morgan around the hill. In Centerville, you know, there's a lot of pressure on those other cities in that area where they really, I mean, we've not seen anything happen from competitors. And so they're at a terrible disadvantage in seeing the cities nearby, you know, benefiting from this. There's a lot of pressure on those cities, a lot of interest that we're seeing, especially in that area. But that's not to say that we don't have others up in Weber County and Utah County and you know, that we're discussing this with. So really interest across the board from various cities. And, you know, and I think we go into those and basically just expect a certain number of them to just not get there, not because there's not demand from citizens. I think there's demand from citizens everywhere. But obviously there's political beliefs. Some people just say, hey, this is just not the proper role of government. And that's pretty much the only reason anyone has to oppose this. And if, you know, it looks like it's going to be a big fight from a city council perspective and attract a bunch of negative attention, we haven't really pursued those. We've said, hey, if a city is you know, interested in this and pretty unanimous in their support of this, you know, we don't need to pick any fights out there. So, you know, where things look very good and the city has a good attitude and there's not going to be a big problem, we've entertained those conversations. And among those, with that sort of an attitude and that sort of support, we have several city partnerships. I think by the time of our next board meeting in February, probably have potentially 1 or 2 approved contracts that we would come to the UIA board with and say, you know, look for counter approval. So
great, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you. Are there any other items that any board member would like to discuss? or ask be put on a future agenda?
Alex, if I could just raise one quick point. Krista brought to my attention that when we were discussing the annual meeting schedule, that we neglected to get a vote from the board just approving that schedule. Could we take a quick minute to get that cleaned up?
Yes, you bet. I'm sorry, I didn't remember that we needed to have a vote on that. I
Oh,
apologize.
and I apologize for not bringing it up at the time.
No, no problem at all. So let's go back. We won't have the presentation again, but is there a board member that would?
Motion to approve the 2021 schedule for next year meetings.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Jason? Who seconded that?
Matt seconded.
Oh, Matt, Ken. Okay. I apologize, Matt. I'm forgetting you left and right.
No problem.
But okay, we have motion and second. Do we need to do a roll call or we can just do a voice vote?
I think a voice vote would be okay on this one. I don't expect that this is an action that would be challenged in the future.
Okay. All in favor of the 2021 or 21, yes, yeah, 2021 schedule, 2021 schedule as proposed, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for mentioning that. Hey, Paul, can you remind us when you're retiring? I think you've announced that, right?
I'm going to retire the 1st of January. So this is my last meeting, and I appreciate all of you very, very much. It's been a great opportunity for me to be on the when Utopia was going through a lot of problems, and I remember a lot of the issues that we had, and now it's just frankly doing great. So I appreciate everybody here, and yeah, I look forward to watching you closely as I retire and die in the next 12 years.
That's not acceptable. Are you going to stay around the West Valley area,
Yeah.
Paul? And you're not?
Yeah, I actually we built a home in Harriman, and so we've moved into this 55 plus community. It's pretty nice. It's a nice place to be. I just got elected as president of the HOA, so I'm really looking forward to dealing with some pretty crusty people here.
So,
Wow.
so now you're becoming one of those people, huh?
Yeah, I need to talk to Harriman City too.
You didn't.
These developers, they don't complete their development, like they should. So I got a lot of complaints already, but that's good. That'll keep me busy.
Well, we're going to miss you, Paul.
Well, thank you guys. Thanks everybody.
Well, I just wanted to say not to wax philosophical, which I sometimes do and doesn't make sense, but for those of you that are newer to the board, even if your cities have been involved, I don't think you probably have any idea how significant Paul has been in the history of this organization. When we went through the really, really rough years, Paul was one of those that stood firm and was immovable in his commitment to see this through. And even for a short period of time when we were going through the transition of leadership, the staff leadership, Paul actually stepped away or added to his daily job and was the executive director and functions that for several months through a really difficult and contentious period internally when we were trying to clean up some issues that had come about with staff. And so I don't think words can effectively communicate, Paul, how we feel about you. I do personally, and I think I can speak for all the board in this. And for as great as a person, or great as a supporter of Utopia you've been, and manager, one thing that sets you apart is you're even a better person. I hopefully speak for the board. Somebody that most of us, I think, acknowledge and believe in said that we should love everyone. And most of us probably try to do that, despite what the world says. But he doesn't ask us to respect people. I think respect is something that people earn from others. And I think it's fair to say, Paul, that those of us who've had the privilege to work with you, we not only love you because we're supposed to, but we also have tremendous respect for you.
Well, thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate those comments. It means a lot to me. And thank you to everybody else. It's been a pleasure to serve with you.
Well, you have great integrity. You're a great man, Paul. So we love you and wish the best for you. If we can do anything organizationally or individually to support you and help you, I'm sure we'd be willing to do it. So
Great. Thanks a lot, you guys. Appreciate y'all.
Best of luck.
you bet.
Thank you.
Well, and the same to the rest of you. We appreciate you and love you as well, if I can say that, and have great respect for you. So Merry Christmas to everybody and just all the best. What a great year. Again, it's congratulations to you, each board member and your cities and to the staff, Utopia. It's a wonderful thing to part of your career to have something of real significance accomplished. And this is certainly one of them. So anybody else want to say anything? I've said too much. Again, I apologize.
No, well said, Alex. So thank you, Paul. Best to you.
Yep. Thank you all.
Okay. Well, very good. We'll stand adjourned then. Have a great day and a great holiday season. Be safe.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
So, bye.
Bye-bye.